many of which are familiar to you, and beyond that, another 1,300 images in the total archive of Abu Ghraib. That other 1,000 are still classified, although they are circulating among journalists. It's just a question of when they will all be released. A great deal has been written about these photographs. Commentators, beginning with Susan Sontag, Seymour Hersh, Mark Danner, immediately argued that these images were only the tip of an iceberg, symptoms of a much larger and systematic problem than a few bad apples among the U.S. soldiers at Abu Ghraib prison. Innumerable opinion pieces have been written arguing for the linkage of these images to the U.S. government's publicly declared contempt for international law and the Geneva Convention, not to mention American criminal and military law. And just yesterday, General Anthony Taguba, who made the first military investigation back in the winter of 2004, has announced that, of course, his investigation was blocked from pursuing the chain of command. But in fact, he did pursue it beyond what he was able to publish. And in his view, the criminality involved in Abu Ghraib goes up the entire chain of command, directly into the White House and into the Oval Office. So a great deal of water has gone over the dam on this subject already, but no one has really stopped simply to ponder and meditate the central icon of the hooded man that emerged from the repertoire of the Abu Ghraib photographs and that established itself as the emblem of the entire episode. This is the figure, it's called the man on the box, the hooded man, or the Abu Ghraib man, or as he became almost immediately known inside Iraq, the Statue of Liberty. This image was painted on a wall in Baghdad in the summer of 2004, within a month of the release of the photographs. And it, of course, immediately suggested that the war was not only about oil, about occupation, about America's strategic interests, it was also about race. The Statue of Liberty is portrayed in the Ku Klux Klan white robes, and it sets up a kind of symmetry, a mimesis that I think is critical to the whole problematic that we're talking about. That's the relation between the torturer and the torture victim, epitomized here by the difference between the faceless, anonymous, hooded figure who can see and the faceless, anonymous, hooded figure who cannot see. The blindfolded and the concealed. The torturer and the torture's victim, but made almost like mirror images of one another. This figure immediately was imitated, was copied, was cloned. And here it's shown with the pedestal of the Klan Statue of Liberty figure using an Iraqi as its pedestal. The joke inside Iraq, of course, was that the Americans were supposed to bring electricity, but they didn't expect that it was going to take this form. As you can see, instead of the Torch of Liberty, the statue is reaching up to pull the electric switch box connected to the wires on the Iraqi prisoner. This piece was also carved soon after the pictures were released by an Iraqi sculptor in Baghdad. It's called The Bag Man of Baghdad. And numerous other images were produced both in this country as part of an anti-war repertoire and throughout the Arab world as elements of protest. This one by Guy Caldwell, a Berkeley artist, showing, in effect, the duplication of the image in a single cluster of figure, reproduced as triplets. But here, merged with the pornographic and obscene, the figures who are stripped naked and who were such an important part of the Abu Ghraib photographs. The image immediately spanned the globe. It became a a kind of globalized image appearing throughout the Arab world immediately as a kind of sign of this moral statement, this moral conclusion, that the war is over. And the first time I showed this particular image, which was installed by a group called Forks Group Graphics over a freeway in Los Angeles, I showed it at a teach-in at Northwestern University. This is summer of 2004. And a naval captain was taking part in the teach-in, the head of ROTC at Northwestern University. When he saw this image, he said, "This is the one that tells the truth. The war is now morally over. We now know no weapons of mass destruction, no connection to Al-Qaeda. All of the casus belli had been exposed as fraudulent. But there was one left, and that was the notion that somehow we were liberating people. We were bringing democracy. We were trying to do something good for them. And I don't doubt that. He also said that the moral end of the war doesn't mean that the shooting stops. After the terrible photos from Vietnam, another 30,000 men died on the U.S. side, and untold numbers of Vietnamese. The image then was quickly fetishized, commodified, turned here into Dick Cheney's Christmas ornaments, into a present under the Christmas tree, and into a subject for cartoonists. This one, by David Rees, captures, I think, the sense that images now, under the imprimatur of cloning, as the most advanced technical mode of image production, that is, the literalizing of the idea of the living image, the image is now viral in a new way, biological in a new way. And so the Abu Ghraib man himself becomes bionic. Well, I want to ask why, I'm going to come back to this image at the end because I think it sums up a great deal about this whole issue. But I want to ask why this image became the icon for the entire Abu Ghraib scandal. And further, how it has acquired an iconographic resonance that goes beyond this immediate event to touch on the deepest and widest meanings of the contemporary world system. Why did it become a world picture? In several senses of the phrase. First, as a globally circulated and instantly recognizable icon, which requires only minimal cues to be called to mind. Second, as a symbol of a global conflict, a world war that is not confined to the present moment of the early 20th century, but resonates deeply within a long history of figures of power and objection in the repertoire of Christian iconography. And third, as a symptom of a new world order of image production and circulation, the one I've been mentioning. The era of digital technologies, viral images, and the era of cloning. The fact that the image, here are some more manifestations of it, finding its way into the bloodstream of images, disappearing here into the stream of advertising. Iraq, iPod, being merged. I'll come back to this image also. But this image from a manuscript by Hildegard von Bingen it reminds us of the fact that this image evokes medieval and Renaissance images of the human body, and Christ's body in particular, as an imago mundi, or microcosm of the world, reinforcing the uncanny sense that this image was already, in some sense, quite familiar, even at the first moment of its appearance in April of 2003. As a guide to thinking about the historical evolution of Christian iconography from Old Testament sources to their adaptation in early Christian art through the Crusades, I rely on a great art historian, Meyer Shapiro, who provides an ideological methodological primer for reflection on this image and its many clones and mutations. Shapiro wrote an essay back in